Hi, today I want to share with you this card that I made for my son. He is studying digital visual effect in Vancouver and he will be graduating in April and the graduation ceremony will be in June. And this card is based on one of the assignments that my son did. This card is finished in early January, but I won't post this video until April so that my son will have a surprise. I'll try the mechanism of the cover page and the double page flip stage inside separately so that the videos won't be too long. I came across online this book by Matthew Reinhart and I especially like one of the pages. So Ariel can change her clothes. The mechanism of this is similar to what I called the double page flip stage, but it's more complicated because there's the same image with the clothes or the costume flip up on the second stage. I have had the design of the whole card in mind for a long time, but couldn't work out the mechanism. So I bought that book and I finally made it happen. I think this mechanism fits what my son is learning. Sometimes he has to do some shooting in front of the green screen and after some digital effects, adding some digital effects. What's originally not in the screen will appear, like the background, the costumes, and some other characters. So although this mechanism is really difficult, I once thought about giving up, but I finally made it, and so now I'm going to share some of my experience and some of the important points that you have to take note of. Leave a gap here. I forgot to mark the gluing position of this piece in here, so now I can only by estimation. And like before, just close it shut. Okay. This is the second stage, the backdrop of the second stage. That is the flip side of the first stage. These two straps will hold the first stage in position, and they will hide under this platform. And the same distance from the edge and 2 cm from the fold. Make a mark, and the glue tab will be glued here, like so, and the same here. Line up with the central goulie. Glue the other side of this strap when the first stage is shut, like so, and they are glued to the base page. And I'm using some tape to reinforce them. In deciding the length of the two straps, bear in mind that when it's closed, it's here, and when it's opened, the hinge will go 2 cm this direction, and then further 2 cm when it's totally opened. So you have to have at least 4 cm's distance between the slot and the gluing part that is glued to the base page. I have glued the platform of the inside stage just now. Although I marked the gluing positions, but there may be some little discrepancies, and even a little bit of a discrepancy, say 0.1 mm, you may not close the whole piece properly. So the best way is either you glue this end and then close it shut and glue this end. But I find that because there is a strap underneath, so it's better for me to glue this end and then put glue on the glue tab here, and then close shut and glue this end. Yoda is supported by a beam. To glue this side first, close it shut. I marked the position of this image and the V-fold. Then I realized that I have to glue this, the first stage first, because it would affect how wide open this page is. Then I glued this one, and it took me a lot of time and I made a lot of mistakes. I think the most difficult part of this mechanism is this piece here. I even dismantled it and measured the angles and copied it, but of course I have to work it out because I had the image on the other side of the stage. And because I also wanted to, adopt it to other mechanisms or other cards. From my experience of making this, I found that the distance between the original image and the flip-up image can't be too wide. This one is already too wide. Oops. So I should have made this closer, so I should have put this backward instead of this one forward, because there has to be enough space, otherwise it will clash with the opening here when I flip down the first stage. And also the most important measurement that you have to decide is the angle of this, because it dictates how slanted this second image is. And I think 60 degrees is about right. Otherwise, you may have to work out your own one. If you think the image is more slanted is better, then you have to work out. So this one is 60 degrees, and for this part, the edge is more or less perpendicular, no, parallel. That should be parallel to the first image. So the angle of this one is not really important. What's important is the edge to be parallel to the first image. When I glued the second image and this piece, I just focused on whether the second image fits just fine on the first image. So I didn't really realize that I have to close it when I glued it, so that this whole piece can lie flat. So it took me a lot of time and a lot of frustration to get it done. But then after that, I examined the original design, the book again. I discovered that actually you just have to lie it flat and glue this part, glue this part and this flap. So this piece actually consists of 4 triangles. This one is a glue tab. So the angle doesn't really matter as long as it is large enough to glue on this vertical side. And most important angle is this one, and as I just said just now, and this one, the angle is not so important either. What's important is whether this edge is parallel to the first image, and the fourth one is also a glue tab. So this fourth triangle is also a glue tab. It's here. As long as there is enough space that you can glue it on, I mean enough space on the floor, on the ground, because I had to cut a hole here so that the first image is actually stuck on the base page. So there should be enough space that you can glue the fourth triangle, the glue tab, on here. And finally, the collar or the guard here, you have to glue them close shut, and as close as this edge as possible, because when you open it, this page will go in this direction. One thing you have to take note when you decide the length of this pull tab. In here, the length of this empty part has to be at least 4 cm, because you see it will move at least 4 cm plus the width of this guard or collar. When I tested the positions and angles of this image and this, they looked fine, and at that time I used a glue tag without actually gluing them. But after I glue them with glue, this image was longer than the stage. So I had to add something to cover it. So I added this director's chair. The mechanism of this director's chair is similar to the house or stable of the Christmas card that I shared earlier on. The difference is that in the house or stable, I had a pillar, but for this one, I didn't use a pillar. And actually, I made 2 strips like this with 3 squares of 3 cm in length and 2 glue tabs, and I glued them like this, with the glue tabs gluing on the ground or the base page and aligned with the galley like this. And I added another one with only 2 squares or 2 panels here like this. So this will be the last strip. And then, since this face is split here, I added a piece that is exactly the same dimensions as here. And then I also added one piece here which is longer than 3 cm, a little bit longer, and also on the other side. And I added one more piece longer than this one, which is, I think is about 4 cm, a little bit longer than 4 cm, and with 2 glue tabs that I glued on here. So it closes like this. So when you put the chair in the base page, you have to leave some space at the back, because as you see, this part will go this direction. And when I made the dummy, I didn't add the ceiling or this part. And it was a straight strip. But then, when I closed it, I found that the image was not on the ceiling or this strip. Then I knew why. For this page or this book, it's like this. It's a little bit higher and with a V cut. If you want to add this part, you have to remember that and measure it when you close it shut like this. Sometimes it will catch on with the image, sometimes it won't. Like so. So if you want to add this part and don't want to catch on with the image, you'd better make it a V shape, a big V shape. I was pretty frustrated when it turned out that this image went beyond the ground of the first stage, and I thought my calculations and experiment wasn't successful. But then when I came up with the idea of adding the director's chair, and I also found that it was because the image of this image and also this image, they were too long, too tall. So actually I could have cut them short, a little bit short, but I didn't want to draw the images again. So I think this one was still successful in make up for the error. So I think it's still worth sharing with you the exploring and experimentation of this mechanism. So I hope you like my sharing today. Thanks for watching. Bye.